Carbiotix has closed the books for the second quarter. With us, we have CEO Kristofer Cook to give us a comment. How are you?
I'm doing very well, Martin. Thank you for allowing me to talk today.
Thank you. Now let's go through a bit of the headlines in the report as I glanced through it this morning. You write that it was an eventful and successful quarter, specifically with regards to production and sales. Can you walk us through what milestones have you reached?
Well, I think the word eventful is probably the correct word in this context. We did a lot this quarter, actually. Provided further clarity in terms of our sales pipeline, both with regard to Linkut and the potential Carbiotix customers. Our US patent was approved as well, which is going to prove significantly important as we move forward with the launch of Carbiotix in the US. We signed an agreement with GrowPro to do an analysis of their fiber substrate, in addition to earlier news looking at another toll manufacturer's substrate. That's very interesting, and we have a few others as well that are going to prove to be very interesting. The completion of the site, I think, was a very key milestone, and we had the opening of the site as well in June, which proved to be an appreciated activity. ISO, getting that in place, was important as sort of a hygiene check in terms of our operations. The grass plan as well was a news item that came out in connection with our consultants' projections in terms of when we'll get grass in place, and that's in Q4. We also hired a CMO, a Chief Medical Officer, which is going to prove to be very helpful as we move into our medical food study and therapeutic development. We completed our lab, and this list keeps on going, as you see, which is going to prove extremely helpful as we ramp up R&D activities looking at different substrates and across modulator classes. We also signed our first sales agreement with FibreHigh, which is going to allow us to demonstrate the potential of our product. Also introducing our expansion plan for ramping up Carbiotix. And then we sort of rounded out the quarter with the completion of the rights issue, bringing in 60 million. So in terms of news, very full of news during the second quarter, and not only related to more clarity on the production and the sales side, but a lot of other items in connection with R&D and sort of hygiene checks as well.
Let's dive deeper into, I think, almost all of these subjects sometime during this interview. But let's start with FibreHigh. Who are they, and how is this sales agreement constructed?
FibreHigh is a relatively newly started Swedish company that's focusing on bringing prebiotic enhanced products to the marketplace. And in this case, they have a coffee booster, and the intention is to mix Carbiotix into this. And the agreement is structured as a right of first refusal agreement. In essence, that they have the right to purchase the amounts of Carbiotix that we produce, and if they don't want to purchase it, obviously we're able to sell that product into the marketplace. So it's an ideal partner to sort of demonstrate the potential of Carbiotix in a very simple form factor, which is this coffee booster, and allows us to demonstrate the potential of the product with a very commercially focused application. And hopefully that leads to other applications on the consumer side, but also on the B2B side.
Now you also mentioned here in the eventful quarter that you brought in, was it 16 million in a share emission? How was the interest from share owners and interested investors?
Yeah, we brought in 16 million before rights issue costs or related costs. Fortunate or unfortunate enough, we managed to time this at the most recent low in terms of the end of May, beginning of June. So from a timing perspective, it wasn't ideal, but thankfully we have dedicated investors, and we had guarantors as well, which allowed us to bring in 80% of the intended rights issue, totaling 20 million. So I'm definitely thankful for this. It also demonstrates that there is interest in Carbiotix and from the market, although these times are challenging, and I imagine will become even more challenging going forward with regards to capital markets and raising capital. But I think if you have a valid value proposition, interesting product, and a market that is growing regardless of macroeconomic developments, I think one can do quite well. And Carbiotix is well positioned in relation to those areas.
And how will you put this money to work?
Yeah, obviously grass is the main thing for us. Regulatory approvals are always a hurdle when launching new ingredients and products to market, and getting grass self-information in place is our priority, especially given the fact that we're operating our new site now, and the product we produce from that site is the basis for the grass application. Continuing with link gut sales and building out that pipeline, and then definitely moving forward with our Carbiotix pipeline as well. This is key going forward. As we've communicated earlier, we also have multiple substrates we want to produce Carbiotix from, the pea fiber and the other substrates that we've mentioned. And there are many others coming as well, which is nice to see, as well as across different modulator classes. So we have the study, metformin study with Lund University, and we have our development on the co-treatment therapeutic side as well as some other interesting products as well. So we're definitely not shy with regards to product development, but the focus is definitely getting product to market and generating sales. That has to be the focus.
And something that you mentioned that you mentioned several times in the report as well is Carbiotix producing and launching in the US. What's the next step in that timeline?
Yeah, obviously getting grass is fundamental to that launch. We've already announced the Microbiome Movement Summit as the launch date, the 8th and 9th of November, and with that, we'll be collaborating with FibreHigh, the company that we've discussed earlier, to demonstrate an application of Carbiotix in their particular product, which is this coffee booster product. So this reveal/launch event is the first step. After that is obviously getting the scale up of Carbiotix production in order, and we have more to communicate about that in Q3 and Q4, so the second half of the year. And there we're focusing on the quickest, most cost-effective way to scale up the production. And not only in the short term, but thinking about the transition going forward and how to maximize gross profits along that timeline without overextending capex. And that's our focus. But we'll provide more clarity in the second half of the year.
If we talk a bit about the long-term value of Carbiotix, it's usually consists of the employees working there and what you can contribute to the company, of course. And you hired a new CMO. Can you tell us a bit about them?
Yeah, well, it's one individual in this case, and Richard has been working with us for over the past 3 years, and I think Richard sort of fleshes out the sort of pipeline of Carbiotix going forward in the sense that he provides, the critical knowledge base on the reg side, but also on the medical affairs side when it comes to not only F&B products, so food and beverage ingredients, but also the medical foods and the therapeutics as well. He has experience across the board interacting and working with the FDA. So he'll provide sort of a vital role when it comes to getting the regulatory requirements in place within the United States, as well as guidance within Europe and elsewhere in the world. So I'm definitely happy to have Richard on board working with us on a consultancy basis. But we've already established a very good relationship, and this is further solidifying that relationship that we've had. And he's already proven to pay significant dividends even in other areas such as product development, so the establishment of new products in the pipeline. So I'm definitely happy having Richard on board.
Kristofer Cook, thank you so much for joining me here today and giving us a quick insight into your report today and a bit in depth about a few questions as well. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'm looking forward to next quarter.
Thank you, Martin. Pleasure to be with you.